Vice presidential candidate Paul Ryan, attended a campaign rally with former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice in Ohio. The rally was held at Baldwin Wallace University in Berea.
Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome here to Baldwin Wallace University. I got to start by saying, go Jackets! Let's get it done. I'd like to thank my friend and your wonderful Senator Rob Portman. Rob, thanks for your leadership in the Senate. Thank you for all that you do for this country. We had the great pleasure of working together over a number of years. You can't find a finer public servant than Rob Portman. Thank you. Now, it's true that I'm going to go and see the Cleveland Browns, who, by my count, won a game last week. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because I want, like you, to see this country prosper, to see this country continue to be a place of unlimited opportunity, to see this country lead the world toward prosperity and liberty and peace. And so I'm here to support Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan in that quest. This is a pivotal time in our country's history. We're at a crossroads, ladies and gentlemen. We're at a crossroads about what kind of country we are going to be, and whether you and I, who have benefited so much from what our ancestors gave us, are going to pass on that same country of liberty and opportunity to our children. And that's what this election is about. We are at a crossroads because we cannot continue to spend money that we cannot afford to pay back, and that therefore will saddle our children with the debts that we have taken on. We just can't afford that. We can't afford to continue to be a country in which so many men, and especially so many women, in these hard economic times, don't know if they will ever work again. Indeed, Americans are feeling this terrible economic pinch and pain. It's been a rough decade or so. 9/11 changed our conception of physical security. The crisis of 2008 changed our conception of economic prosperity and security. And the last 4 years have been very tough on folks who just want to work hard and make a living. You know, when I was a little girl, I remember my grandfather saying to my mother, "Angelina, you and John have to buy a house as soon as you can, because the value of your home never goes down." But Americans have watched as this most prized asset, the value of their home, has indeed gone down. And many Americans out of work wonder if they're ever going to work again. And you know, they have reason to work in an economy like this where jobs are being created so slowly. And they have reason to worry, because the longer you're out of work, the less likely you are to find a job. And so when Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan say they're going to put this country back to work, this is an urgent call, not one for which we can wait another 4 years. But you know, as important as it is for us to pay our bills and not take on debt that we can't afford, as important as it is to get people back to work, as important as it is to give people a sense of hope again, I want to make one other argument to you. I want to say one other thing. When you're Secretary of State, you get to go around the world and you get to see what this great country means to the world. You get to see what people don't particularly like about us, but you also get to see how admired America is for its central belief that it doesn't matter where you came from, it matters where you're going. Now, across the world, people look to the United States for strength. They look to the United States to keep the peace. And by the way, we have to be eternally grateful that we have men and women in uniform who volunteer. They volunteer to defend us at the front lines of freedom. The strength, the peace through strength. But we've also given the world hope, so that people have come here from all over the world to be a part of that belief that it doesn't matter where you came from, it matters where you're going. And people here have never been trapped in their view of class as a prison. We have never been envious of one another, and we have certainly never been envious of one another's success. A country of opportunity and hope. And you know, as I stand here at this wonderful university, I'm reminded that so much of that sense of opportunity and hope, of possibility, comes with a good education that can transform who you are and what you might be. I have to tell you, you know, we all have our family heroes, and one of ours, is my grandfather on my father's side, my paternal grandfather, a man named John Wesley Rice Sr. Now, when John Wesley Rice Sr. was a sharecropper's son in Utah, that would be E-U-T-A-W, I'm not kidding, Alabama, John Wesley Rice Sr. decided he was going to get book learning in a college. So he went and asked people, how could a colored man go to college? And they said, well, you see, they have this little Presbyterian school. It's called Stoneman College. It's about 30 miles from here. You can go there. So he saved up all his money, and he went through 1 year at Stillman. Then they said, so how are you going to pay for your second year? He said, well, you see, I'm out of cotton. They said, well, you're out of luck. But then my grandfather, thinking quickly, said, so how are those boys going to college? And they said, well, they have what's called a scholarship. And if you wanted to be a Presbyterian minister, you could have a scholarship too. And my granddaddy said, that's exactly what I had in mind. My family has been college educated and Presbyterian ever since. Now, the transforming power of education that these young people are experiencing here at this fine university is a wonderful thing in and of itself. But I want them, when they leave here, to be able to take part in the prosperity of an economy that works the way that you and I did. And that's also what this election is about. And that's being watched across the world, because America needs to lead from strength. But America, more than anything, needs to lead from its values and its principles. And Americans need to feel confident in our values and our principles so that we want to lead. That principle that it doesn't matter where you came from, it matters where you're going, has always meant that we have not been a people who were constantly aggrieved. Why don't I have? And we didn't give way to aggrievement's twin brother, entitlement. Why don't they give me? Instead, no matter our circumstances at birth, we believed that with a chance, we would succeed. We might not be able to control our circumstances, but we could control our response to our circumstances and look at what we built in the United States of America. That's what this election is about. That's what this pivotal time in our history is about. That's why we're at a crossroads. We're at a crossroads on so many fronts, on leadership abroad, on fiscal responsibility at home, on jobs for our people, yes, on equality for men and women, to have the same opportunity to succeed. This is a powerful country that has been a powerful force for peace and liberty in this world. I want to see it be that way well into the future. Sometimes it seems that the task before us is just too hard. But I want to remind you, as I said to the nation at the Republican Convention, that Americans have had a way of making the impossible seem inevitable in retrospect. You know, by all rights, the United States of America should never come into being. What, against the greatest military power of the time, with a third of George Washington's troops down to smallpox? But we did. And then we fought a civil war, brother against brother, hundreds of thousands dead on both sides, and yet we emerged a more perfect union. Out where I live, if you cross the Continental Divide, you think about those people who came across that in covered wagons. They had to be optimists because they didn't even know what was on the other side, and they kept going anyway. And then a little girl grows up in Birmingham, Alabama. She can't go to a restaurant, to a movie theater, but her parents have her absolutely convinced she can be President of the United States. She becomes the Secretary of State. A place that made the impossible seem inevitable in retrospect. But we know it wasn't inevitable. It took leadership, and it took courage, and it took vision. And that's why I am so proud to be here today. Because I know we're all going to work very, very hard to make sure that that vision and that leadership and that integrity that we see in Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan is available to America in these troubled times. And so it is a great honor and a great privilege to ask to join me on stage the congressman from Wisconsin and the future Vice President of the United States, Paul Ryan.
What an example. If you want to see the embodiment of the American idea, look no further than this leader off my right shoulder, Condoleezza Rice. If you want to see what a capable and conscientious leader from the Buckeye State looks like, look no further than my left shoulder, Senator Rob Portman. I also want to say thanks to Mary Taylor. Thank you for being here today. And she serves with a great guy, one of my budget buddies, John Kasich, your governor right here in Ohio, who's helping turn things around for you here. Hey, look, BW, thanks for hosting us here today. Go Jackets. We really appreciate it. The three of us get to go see the Browns later today. I got to tell you, here's one thing I want to do. I want to meet Joe Thomas. This is a guy who's from our neck of the woods, from Wisconsin. I watched him play college ball. He is a fantastic tackle. He's a great guy. And look, nice going last Sunday. All right? You know, I'm a Miami of Ohio grad. And I remember during those years, my friends from Cincinnati and Cleveland would not talk to each other at least twice a year. And it's great to see these old rivalries. Didn't Mitt Romney do a great job for us last night? You know, this is my second time following Condoleezza Rice. It's a little intimidating. Tough act to follow. Well, Mitt Romney had a fantastic first debate. He laid out a vision for the country. What we saw was we were able to cut through the clutter of all these 30-second attack ads, and we saw a leader. And last night, Same thing. Cut through the clutter of all the attack ads, and what did we see? We saw a president offering not a single new idea on how to turn things around. We saw a president not offer a single idea or a lesson learned from the failures of the last 4 years. But what we saw in Governor Mitt Romney was a leader who has the solutions, who has the ideas on how to turn this economy around, how to get people back to work, and how to get America back on the right track. And that's what we're going to do on November the 6th right here in Ohio, is we're going to recognize that leadership and elect Mitt Romney, the next president of the United States. Here is President Obama's problem. His economic agenda failed not because it was stopped. It failed because it was passed. Let's not forget, he came in with one-party rule. The ability to do everything of his own choosing. And he did. And look at where we are right now. 23 million Americans struggling to find work. You know, we had a discussion about how women are faring in this economy last night. 5.5 million women are still struggling for work in this economy. 500,000 women more are unemployed today than when President Obama was sworn in. 26 million women are trapped in poverty today. That's the highest rate in 17 years. We need to get people back to work. We need to get this economy turned around. The American idea is there. It hasn't gone away. But we have the wrong people and the wrong policies in place. And if we clear the way and go forward with the proactive, pro-growth solutions and the agenda that Mitt Romney's talking about, we will get people back to work. We will get people out of poverty, back into the middle class. We'll get people back onto reaching their vision of the American dream. You know, somewhere out there on that horizon is that dream that you have for yourself, for your children. Lately, to many people, it seems like it's getting a little more distant. It's still there. We need leadership.
Thank you to you and Ron.
Thank you, ma'am. One of my favorite historians just passed away a week ago. And he would often say, great leaders step up at important moments. Condoleezza Rice just explained how important this very moment is. You see, this isn't just an election where we're picking a president for 4 more years. It really doesn't matter what generation you come from. This is the most important election in your generation. Because we're not just deciding who's going to be in Washington for a few years. We're deciding what kind of country we're going to be and what kind of people we're going to be. The American idea is there. In a nutshell, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, under what circumstances you got here or you were born, you can make the most of your life. The only thing limiting you in this free society and free economy is your own God-given talent and your own hard work and your effort. You can be whatever you want to be in this country. We need to remove those barriers so people can have the right to rise, so people can get out of poverty, so people can make the most of their lives. And when you see these ideas coming from the president, when you see all the borrowing and all of the spending and all of the regulating and all of the money printing, it just doesn't work. If you want to see what this movie looks like at the end of the movie, go home, turn on the TV, and look at Europe. They're already in a debt crisis. They've already kicked the can so far down the road that there's no more road to kick the can down. And here's what happened. Generations of politicians made a lot of empty promises to voters to get elected. And now that the debt crisis has hit them, those empty promises are broken promises. They're slashing health and retirement benefits for current retirees, cranking up taxes, going into recession. Young people have no opportunities. The youth unemployment rate is above 20% throughout Europe. In Greece, in Spain, it's over 50%. Right now, I mean, look at this great institution we are at. Right now, half of college graduates are either not working in the sector that they trained for or even working at all. That's unacceptable. We don't have to settle for this. Look, this may be the best that President Obama can give us, but it's not the best that we can give ourselves. And what these... And what history shows is that the qualities that make a great leader at this kind of moment are these. A person with a moral compass. A person with a bedrock of principles. A person with a vision for the future and the ability and the skills to execute that vision. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Mitt Romney. That's exactly what we saw last night. That's exactly what we saw 2 weeks ago. And it's exactly the kind of man we're going to see on November the 7th. This is a man who has succeeded in so many areas where many others have failed. This is a man where when his country called and asked him to help support the Olympics and turn it around, he did that. This is a man who throughout his career has learned exactly what it takes to create jobs, turning around struggling businesses, starting successful businesses, businesses we know today like Sports Authority and Bright Horizons and Staples and Steel Dynamics. By the way, being successful in business, that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. That's something we all take pride on. We don't envy other people's success. We want to emulate other people's success. We want more people to become successful. That's freedom. That's free enterprise. That's the American dream. And so when we see a president speak to our darker emotions of fear and envy and anxiety, that's not what we do in this country. That's not how you win elections. You see, the president, he can't run on his record. It's a terrible record. We've got a debt crisis staring us in the face, and he's given us nothing but 4 budgets with trillion-dollar deficits every day, every year, and no solutions. We've got so many people struggling to find work that 5.5 million people just stopped trying. I mean, if we actually counted those people who stopped looking for work, the unemployment rate would be closer to 11%. We can do better than this. When Mitt Romney was governor of Massachusetts, this is a Republican governor of a Democratic state. 87% of the legislators he served with were Democrats. Did he demean them or demagogue them or ridicule them? No. He met with them every single Monday. He worked across the aisle. He didn't compromise his principles, but he found common ground and he got things done. He balanced the budget without raising taxes. He lowered unemployment. Household income went up. The bond rating went up. Unemployment went down. That's precisely the kind of leadership we need today. You look at what the president's proposing. He basically has one new idea. Raise taxes even more. Raise taxes on successful small businesses. So we're taxing our successful small businesses at a rate of over 40%. When our competitors overseas are taxing their businesses at 25% or less. I don't know about you, but here in the Midwest, where we come from, here in Big Ten country, most of our businesses come from these small businesses. Most of our jobs come from small businesses. Overseas, which where I come from means Lake Superior, the Canadians just lowered their tax rate to 15%. And he wants our tax rate on our small businesses, the ones that create most of our jobs, to go above 40%. It doesn't even pay for 10% of his proposed deficit spending. And all of this borrowing and all of this interest is going to amount to a $4,000 tax increase on middle-class families. Remember when he said that if you're in the middle income, if you make less than $250,000 a year, no tax increases under my watch? Of the 21 tax increases in Obamacare, 12 of them hit the middle class. He said he'd cut the deficit in half in 4 years. Wrong. He said he'd bring people together to solve the country's biggest problems. Look, the other day on TV, the president said, I can't change Washington from inside. Isn't that why we elect presidents? All I have to say is, if he can't change Washington, then it's time we change presidents and elect Mitt Romney the next president of the United States. What Mitt and I owe you, our fellow citizens, is a really clear choice. That's our obligation. It's not enough for us just to complain or criticize, but to offer solutions. You heard that last night. Our 5-point plan are specific solutions to get people back to work, to get this economy reaching its potential, to create 12 million jobs. An energy policy. We have so much energy right here in Ohio. Let's use that energy and create jobs. And let's help those workers who are in between jobs get the skills they need. And let's help those kids in our inner cities get out of the failing schools that are trapping them in poverty into schools that work, and give them a good education so they can get on with their lives. Let's cut spending, let's balance the budget, and let's stop this Washington knows best that we can keep spending money we don't have. And let's champion our small businesses. This is bigger than that, though. This just isn't getting jobs. It just isn't creating energy. It's bigger than that. America, it's an idea. It's not just a country with a flag. It's not just Wisconsin or Ohio or California or Maine. It's an idea. You know, it's the only country founded on an idea. The idea is really clear. Thomas Jefferson said it so well in the Declaration of Independence. Our rights, they come from nature and nature's God, not from government. That's the essence of the American idea. Our founders established this. And I see veterans and cheeseheads all over. It makes me hungry sometimes when I see that in the audience. I see veterans here. I see them on your hats. The veterans of this country put on the uniform, served our nation, and they secured this for each and every generation. And we thank them for that. Please don't forget early voting. Ohioans have a unique responsibility. You're the battleground of the battleground states. You're used to it. You know this. That's why you're here. You have a unique responsibility and an opportunity and an obligation to make sure that we secure our future, that we look back at this moment as the moment we got things right. Look, Winston Churchill probably said it best. The Americans, they can be counted upon to do the right thing, but only after they've exhausted all the other possibilities. I kind of think that that's the moment we're at right now. Look, Mitt Romney and I are pledging this. We're going to reclaim those principles that made us great. We're not going to kick the can down the road and duck the tough issues. We're going to lead and fix this mess in Washington. We're not going to spend the next 4 years blaming others. We're going to take responsibility. And of all things, we are not going to try to transform this country into something it was never intended to be. We are an exceptional nation. We want to keep it that way. We will not replace our founding principles. We will reapply our founding principles. We have leaders ready to lead. We have a country that needs to be saved. We have a country heading in the wrong direction that can be taken on the right track. It's not too late to get this done. Thank you so much for coming out today. Thank you for what you've done. Don't forget to early vote. Thank you for what you're doing. Now let's go out and get this done. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.